Hi, I'm Barbara Wesley, your host of Cibola Treasures. I want to welcome you to this edition, and we have a great program designed just for you and some new things happening here at Seven Cities Productions and Double J Media Group. Well, we have a tremendous program for you because we have a new principal at the Grants High School, and his name is Mr. Widener. He's from the eastern part of the state, but has been doing some things also in Albuquerque and a variety of other places. Also, Chris Meach, many of you remember Chris Meach. Well, he's going to talk a little bit about some of the things that he's been doing and growing up here in Grants. And then we have Grants Main Street with William Yarbrough and Josephine Hurtado. So they will be our guests. And we're talking about the 7 Trails of Gold, which is going to be happening at the end of May, 1st of June. So stay tuned for this exciting edition of Cibola Treasures.
For 32 years, Angela and Larry Baca have owned the famous El Cafecito Restaurant in Grants. El Cafecito has been at this location for 20 years. In their new building for 8 years. Quite a difference. For 32 years, the food and service has not changed. Always made fresh every day. You will be welcomed by the friendly staff. Begin the day with breakfast. So many choices. Maybe it's their famous prize-winning El Cafecito burrito, one of the top 10 in the state of New Mexico. Customers are always happy with great food.
Good morning. I enjoy Al Caf. I enjoy the Larry Special. We come every Friday. This whole group right here.
We come to El Cafecito for the good food and the atmosphere and the friendship of everybody in the community.
The taco plate is great for lunch. Any time of the day is just right to get your chili fix, with the green chili cheeseburger and all the fixins. Having a party or in need of a meeting room? The state-of-the-art electronics will accommodate you. Plus, great menu options to select from. El Cafecito offers catering for special occasions too. In a hurry? For fast service, the drive-up window is just for you. Just call in your order at 285-6229 to get your meal on the go. What makes El Cafecito so special? The food, of course. The friendly, efficient staff. You will find Larry and Angela Baca working side by side with their staff. Plus, their diligent oversight has made El Cafecito famous throughout the Southwest. Visitors from all over the country stop at El Cafecito too. It's El Cafecito for all of your New Mexican food delights. One of those delights are the sopapillas. For 16 years, San Juana Montoya has been preparing them fresh every day. Just the right dessert to end your meal. El Cafecito is located at 820 East Santa Fe Avenue, or call 505-285-6229 to place your to-go order or to schedule your next event.
Welcome to this segment of Cibola Treasures. We have in our studio today Chris Meach. And Chris, people know you because you grew up here.
I did.
But you've kind of been away for a while, getting an education and doing that sort of thing. But let's go back a few years, if we can.
Okay, absolutely.
You grew up in Grants, and what was it like growing up in Grants?
It was fun. I'm being a small town. there's pros and cons to it all. But ultimately, I think because of the small, tight-knit community, I guess I feel like it goes back to it takes a village to raise a child kind of thing. And I got a lot of support from a lot of people in this community, so I'm very grateful for that.
Okay. And so, what were some of the things you did besides getting into a little trouble from time to time?
Yeah, it tend to follow me sometimes. Outside of that, I was extremely active in sports. So I played basketball up till I guess it would have been my junior year. Played some football, played soccer through my till I graduated, and ran track and field, and ultimately I was a good enough pole vaulter to win the state champion, or become the state champion in 2004, my graduating year. So
wonderful. Okay, so sports kept you active and out of trouble too.
Physically, yes, and then from academic standpoint, I competed in science fair since grade 6. And so I competed in science fair and went to state multiple times. And actually my senior year, I was fortunate enough to be a backup in international science fair.
Okay. So what kind of projects did you do for the science fair?
Some of my earlier projects were more of the traditional elementary scientific projects, lighting a light bulb with lemons kind of thing. And that kind of morphed more into the family business, where I started testing different aggregates and how that played a role in the strength of that concrete. And then that morphed into more of a chemistry dynamic, as far as, what different chemical additives can be added to concrete to increase the strength. And then it kind of grew into this monstrosity of actually mixing, all of these different additives to kind of create the strongest concrete the state had actually ever seen come into their lab. They're really welcoming here there at District 6, and being able to not only process my cylinders, but then compressively break them there in the lab as well. So that was pretty neat.
That's quite an accomplishment for a youngster.
Yeah.
Yes. So when you went off to college, what was it that you wanted to major in? What was it that just, as a young person, you were curious about things, so evidently some of these science projects stimulated your quest, if you will.
Yeah, so outside of science fair, I was also in National Honor Society, MESA, and STEM as well, there at the high school. And so I think a combination of all of those really facilitated the development, or the desire to continue developing myself. And I'd also say that because I started at a really young age working in the family company, there was no level of entitlement. So it was, as soon as I was strong enough to work a shovel, I was put to work, with the different laborers and stuff like that. So.
Do you know that that's really important? That we see our youngsters today not learning skills from their parents, and it can be both a mother and a father that are not teaching their children certain things. And I think our society is going to it's going to hurt our society, because our youngsters are not learning how to change a tire, or even putting air in a tire, or how to clean the car. You probably started, and I'm going to guess because we haven't talked about this, but I'm guessing that you learned how to change the oil in some of the trucks and vehicles.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you as far as, some of the simple, I'll call them trades, but my emphasis on trades within New Mexico is highly recommended, as far as an an area for somebody to study and actually do very well for themselves. And like you said, your guess was spot on as far as, you know, some of the, I'll call them simple things now just because I've done them so many times, but you know, I was really fortunate that we had a go-kart and a four-wheeler as I was growing up, but it wasn't like, you know, I just got to ride them. No, you have to maintain them. We had to, you know, check the tire pressures. If there was a leak, you know, you need, you know, I was instructed or shown and then had to fix the flats myself, as well as, you know, like you said, change the oils. And so that started at a really young age. Yes.
That's important. That's so critical. Our youngsters are learning from youngsters today with a smartphone, and I think that's detrimental to their learning to work, because work is really important, in my opinion.
Yes.
And you know, we've said, well, children shouldn't work. Well, I have a different opinion about that. When I think it's a responsibility of a parent to train their child so that when they are the age of majority, 18 or whatever, that they're able to take care of themselves. They know how to do the laundry. They know how to maintain a car. They know how to do some of these things in life that our youngsters today are not educated in. Because, but your family gave you that foundation.
Well, they weren't easy on me, to say the least. Kind of like I said in referencing back to as soon as I was strong enough to work a shovel, you know, I recall multiple times, you know, working for my grandmother, Grandma Norma Meach, and she could, at the time, outwork any of us, and so she would work us into the ground, and but there was a level of, you know, these are things that you need to know, and you know, helping her around the house and stuff like that as well. It wasn't a you know, kick your boots off and sit on the couch while
and just come see Grandma.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, I think that we're losing a lot of that, and the fact that you've come back to Grants after getting your education. So what was the first step when you went off to college? What did you pursue initially?
Well, actually, initially, I was, at the time, they didn't have the concurrent enrollment like they do now. And so I was trying to juggle evening classes at the community college here, trying to get a jump start on some of the math and sciences. And I also had taken my EMT class, and so I had my EMT basic. And then I was kind of enjoying that, and so I thought, you know, maybe my desires to go into the medical field were there. And so I actually was very fortunate that Dr. Valdivia was able to allow me to job shadow him as well. And so that was my, I guess, 7th hours, like the last couple hours within my senior year, I was job shadowing him.
Okay.
And so that transitioned into taking the CNA class, Certified Nurse's Assistant class here at the branch. And about that time, I was able to then get accepted onto the track and field program at a university in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
And so I moved out there, continued my sciences, and then moved back to Albuquerque, where I finished a bachelor's in biology and a minor in chemistry at the University of New Mexico.
Okay. So that's the first step. Now, what's the next step?
The next step was as I'd completed all of the requirements and needed to fulfill some electives, and I took a business class to fulfill that elective, and ultimately just fell in love with the business side of things. It was, a lot of the times I try and describe it as, you know, growing up around Walter and the family company. He would always explain, you know, why he executed a certain decision. And it wasn't until I really got into business school to really understand and actually kind of put a name to the analysis or the logic behind making that decision. And so I don't want to say it came second nature, but there were a lot of correlations to how I was almost kind of hardwired as far as processing and problem solving and looking at opportunities.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
So don't go away. We'll be right back because Chris Meach has a great deal more to share with us about his travels through education. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Fast, reliable internet is here, and it's local.
My name is Robert Windhorst. When my wife went back to school to become a teacher, our internet service was terrible. Sacred Wind came into our area and we signed up. It is great service.
Hi, I'm Amanda Valdez and I am a teacher. Thinking of pursuing my master's degree, I knew that it couldn't have been possible before. Sacred Wind Internet made it possible to obtain my degree online.
Connect 66 Internet. Fast, reliable, and local. Powered by Sacred Wind.
Well, welcome back to this segment of Cibola Treasures. We have in our studio today that many of you may know. Chris Meach is with us today, and we're talking about his journey through education right now. So you've got a degree, a bachelor's degree in chemistry and...
A bachelor's degree in biology, minor in chemistry at this current time, yes.
Okay, so that's where we are now. Now, what's the next step? Because now you've got something that's just exploded, if you will, about this business.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
So let's talk about the process there.
So I had some fantastic instructors there at the Anderson School of Business, and they really foster a really dynamic learning environment, and I really strived in that school itself, and ultimately was able to finish my bachelor's in business administration with really high marks, high enough, in fact, that Anderson offers the ability to waive certain basic requirement classes if you do well in your undergraduate studies, and so I was able to qualify for the master's program and waive a handful of prereqs, as you say, and so then able to kind of fast track and finish my master's in business administration there.
So now we've got two bachelor's degrees, one in science and chemistry, and the next in business.
Correct.
And now we've got a master's degree in business administration.
Correct. And I guess I failed to mention some of the other incremental and personal development classes that took me even outside of the University of New Mexico. I actually spent a year studying in Australia.
Okay.
I was able to apply through UNM for a study abroad program and get into a business school in Australia. And I spent 2 semesters studying business in Australia. And it was challenging in a sense that when I moved there, it was I guess our spring kind of summer, and I didn't realize what I was going into as far as it was their winter. And so I spent basically a year in winter conditions because when I got back, it was winter here kind of thing.
Right,
so,
you left in winter, went to winter, and came back to winter.
Yeah.
Right. So how important are these developmental opportunities that are not really, they are affiliated with education, but it's not working toward a degree per se, but how important are those things?
Well, in actually a lot of those classes I was able to bring back and have UNM accept them for different requirements. And so I was able to get Anderson School of Business to accept them for requirements. And so there definitely was an educational piece to that, as far as I guess diversifying my understanding of business in an international market, as well as the just the diverse and from ethnic standpoint, from you know, friends and everything like that I'd met and established along the way.
Right.
There in Australia, the university that I went to, there were people from all over the world, which was really, really neat. Just getting to you know, become friends with them and interact, and it really creates a dynamic mind shift as far as kind of how you think and see the world as well.
And that's really critical, because things are changing so quickly. If we don't have a grasp of what's going on in the world, how can we address those things that filter down to a local level?
I agree. You know, not only are we, a lot of the times we feel like we're local and isolated here, but on the grand scheme of things, I mean, we're becoming more and more globalized.
We are. That's right. So, now what is your position with your company at this point?
So currently, you know, we're not big on job titles, but I've acted as a project manager for a handful of NMDOT projects. I've outside of even the master's program, UNM offers some concurrent enrollment programs, and one of them was a project management course. There's some different certifications out there that some of these agencies like to see that somebody within the company has, and so I acted as a project manager for a handful of NMDOT projects, and then I'd say lately my role's kind of morphed into more of a business development role, from a product development, almost an R&D standpoint, as well as you know, looking for different ways to cut costs, from just an operational standpoint to even tax incentive programs. For instance, I was able to get one of our particular products to qualify for a non-taxable certificate, because New Mexico allows manufacturers who manufacture a product that then is sold to other companies that then use that in their manufacturing process.
Right,
So.
right. Now, we spoke a couple of weeks ago, and you said something about doing proposals and bids.
Correct.
Now, that requires a special skill too, because there's so many components to going into the bid process. So, what are some of the things that you have to do to prepare a bid?
Well, nowadays with the NMDOT, when you're preparing a bid, it's fairly complicated. So I do get help from the amazing staff there at C&E. They're a godsend as far as being able to get me the right data to then take that data and apply that into a bid format. You know, analyzing and making sure that not only are we covering all of our costs and expenses from, you know, the product and the transportation itself, but you've got a lot of hidden costs or variable costs as far as the administrative side, the workman's comp. I mean, you've got costs that necessarily aren't visible that you have to account for and be able to factor that into the bid itself.
Right, right. Well, we have done some projects here that we've had to provide everything, including you know, mileage and all of those components that go into this proposal so that we could get the contract for
Yes.
something. So, but not at the level that you're at. I mean, ours is pretty simple compared
But it's
to,
all comparable. So.
but it's not as complicated as yours is, because we have a pretty straightforward product, and it's all deals with what our client really wants and what they expect from it and how we can meet that, you know. But what do you see? I came to Grants in '94, and it seemed like there was so much vibrant activity in our community at that time. And now I don't see some of those things that solidify the community. Now that's just my opinion. I know that there are things that go on in the community, but what do you see as the future of Grants? Or is that
There's a lot of opportunities out there. I'll give Grants that. There's also a lot of opposition, to harvest those opportunities.
Right. And that's been a challenge ever since the mines closed.
Correct. Yes. No, absolutely. And even more so today than ever before, the opportunity for, to reopen those mines up, mine uranium and actually use as an energy source, I think is more valuable, or there's more opportunities there than ever before. There's a big push for, killing coal and carbon burning power plants. There's give and take on both sides as far as, where this county is headed. But as far as services and stuff like that, those will always be here. From a manufacturing standpoint, I think there's huge opportunities.
I see a community that has all of this ready, and we could be the leading community, the leading county in the state, utilizing the opportunities that we have. But it takes a vision, and then with that vision, I believe it takes the action to follow that vision.
I agree. To try and kind of put in perspective a little bit, when you look at transportation, that is one of the leading drivers to be able to get product, A to point, B kind of thing. And so you look at BNSF, and our railroad that runs right through this community is one of their main arteries. And so for us not to be able to develop and create a transloading facility, a hub there in Milan, that will give us a huge competitive advantage over a lot of other communities.
It will. It will. Well, we've been given the high sign. We need to cut this visit off. But I would hope that you will come back at another time and we can talk more about, in closing, my agenda was to have you express how important it is to have an education, because I see many of our youngsters not pursuing an education. So tell me, how important has it been for you to have the education that you've had?
For me, it's I can't even compare it to anything really. It's given me the ability to look at the town of Grants and see a handful of possible opportunities. So a lot of people may say there's not much going on here. I beg to differ. There's opportunities.
There are, absolutely, and it comes with an education, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Right. Chris, thank you for joining us today. This has been a pleasure getting to know you again, because it's been many, many years since we met. And I want to thank you, our audience, for tuning in to this segment of Cibola Treasures, brought to you by Double J Media, Seven Cities Productions, and Comcast.
Fast, reliable internet is here, and it's local.
Hi, I'm Mike Gonzalez, IT Director for the Village of Milan.
And I'm Robert Ramirez, the Computer Lab Moderator.
We have fiber optic service through Sacred Wind, and it has allowed us to create our computer lab.
Hi, I'm Amanda Valdez, and I am a teacher. Thinking of pursuing my master's degree, I knew that it couldn't have been possible before. Sacred Wind Internet made it possible to obtain my degree online.
Connect 66 Internet. Fast, reliable, and local. Powered by Sacred Wind. A name you know. A product you trust.
Welcome to this segment of Cibola Treasures. In our studio today is someone that is really new to our community, but someone that I have known for many years, and that's Lane Widener. Lane, why don't you tell our audience what your role is in the community?
I am the principal at Grants High School. I moved to Grants in June of 2018 and started the school year with our kids at Grants High School.
Okay. So, Lane, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Estancia, New Mexico, in a small town there. Grew up on a farm and was kind of raised there and grew up in that community.
Right. Fascinating little community, isn't it?
It is. It was a good place to grow up. Lots of opportunities for education and knew lots of people in the community. It kind of gave me strong roots in what a small community's like and what it's like to work in a community where you give back to your community.
Right, and that was one of the strengths of Estancia, is that you would all come together and do things that supported the whole of the community.
Correct. We from a young age, I remember being involved in everything. I mean, we were involved in the fairs, we were involved in the parades, and everything revolved around the school. And so, as I became an educator, I kind of knew what it's like when a community revolves around the school.
Right. And your father and I'm older than your father, but we grew up at a time when these communities supported one another through thick or thin, right? So most of us grew up in that era where everyone knew one another, everyone supported and encouraged one another. You had a community that really, the day-to-day life just was almost a cycle. You could almost predict what time the mailman was coming by to drop your mail off in your box. You could predict when someone was out of fuel and they had to have the tank come by. And I mean, you could almost predict those things without anyone telling you, because it was such a cycle all the time.
Very, very consistent. That's one thing that I really like about Grants. We have a strong sense of community, and in my role at the school, it's neat to see how the community rallies around the kids, around our sporting events, our fine arts programs, our dual credit with the college. It's neat to have found such a community to be part of.
Good. Well, the other thing is, how did you decide to get into education?
So I started college in the early 90s. I went to college, and my first year I was a business major. I kept thinking that I wanted to go into the business field. And after I completed my first year of college, I volunteered at a summer camp. And I went back and worked with teenagers and kids, and it was kind of a calling that I realized that I really wanted to work with kids. I wanted to impact kids' lives. And so when I went back for my sophomore year of college, I changed my major to education, and specifically secondary education, and have been a teacher ever since.
Well, good. So where did you teach at first?
I started teaching in Moriarty. I went back to kind of my home area in Torrance County, and I taught agriculture. So I taught welding, I taught animal science, I taught horticulture, I taught leadership, and so I was an agriculture teacher at Moriarty for a couple of years, and then really had the desire to go back and get a master's. And so I taught for a few years, and then went and got my master's. I moved to Las Cruces.
Okay.
And
where they have the best university in the state.
Correct. I went to New Mexico State. And,
so you've heard all the Aggie jokes.
Yes, yes. And I dual mastered. I have a master's in agriculture, but I also have a master's in educational administration. And at the time, I thought administration would kind of be my fallback, that I was loving the agriculture so much. And so it's funny because as soon as I finished the master's, I've been a school administrator since.
Okay.
And so it was, I left Las Cruces. I went back home. At the time my mom was ill, so I got to kind of go home and be with my family, and got into administration. So that was almost 15 years ago.
Boy, time flies when you're having fun, right?
It does. It does.
Well, so before coming to after, and I should say that your family has been so precious to me, your mom and dad.
Thank you.
And so to lose your mom has been hard, very, very hard.
Yeah.
She was a special, special lady. And so is your dad. His love for his family and his grandchildren is just amazing. When he talks about him, he just
lights up.
Right, he does. Mm-hmm. And so, where did you go after that? After your mom died?
So I had been in. So the last 15 years, I got into administration. I was at East Mountain Charter High School in Sandia Park.
Right.
I was there, I taught there, and I also was the assistant principal. And then I went from there, I went back to Estancia, to my hometown, where I was principal. I got to be principal there for a couple of years. And then after Estancia, I went to work for juvenile justice. I worked with the incarcerated teens, and I was an assistant superintendent for them.
Okay. All right. Well, my daughter has a PhD in educational psychology, and she said those students that she also went and worked with these youngsters, and she said they were the best students she ever had.
They were good kids. They were. I enjoyed that work. I was with them for 6 years, and it was neat because those kids hadn't been exposed to education, and so they were once they started thriving through school, they did very well. And so that was in my role as their assistant superintendent. I got to work with careers and career programs. And
so you helped them you helped prepare them for adult life.
Correct. So that way my hope was that our kids, when they left the system, they left with something. So, whether that be a GED, a high school diploma, a certification in like plumbing or construction trades. And so I always wanted to help them so they didn't go back to the gang life or the things that got them incarcerated. I wanted them to have something to go back to support their families.
And where was this program?
We were at Foothill High School in Albuquerque.
Okay. All right.
And there's schools around the state that are managed by CYFD.
Okay.
And so I worked for CYFD and oversaw the different schools. And then luckily I had the opportunity I wanted to get back into a public school. I found that being an assistant superintendent, I liked it, but I missed working with families. I missed working with kids. I missed working with teachers. And so I feel very blessed that I got to come here.
Well, we're blessed to have you.
It's a great place.
Well, so now you've had over 6 months to analyze and look at everything that's here. So when you look at, what do you think the strengths of the school is?
Grants High School. We have a large school. We offer, top-notch education. Kids are getting dual credit. They're taking AP courses. They're taking honors courses. they're getting scholarships. We have a lot of academic opportunities for our kids, and I think that's a strength. And we have, there are over 850 kids at Grants High School. They're well behaved and they're respectful. They're it's neat to be the principal, to have such caring and kind young people to work with.
Now, the strengths, we've also got some challenges.
We do,
right?
We do. In some ways, we have to grow a bit. Our career programs are relatively new. We've had a traditional welding program. We've had, and so that's one thing I'm really trying to beef up our career opportunities for kids. We're looking at the type of careers that are in the community, and if can we help a kid to certify in like heavy equipment operator, so if they wanted to work at the mine they could get a job. And so that's we're really trying to beef up and expand our career options, and working with the college to make sure that our kids can earn those associate's degrees.
Right.
And everything.
Well, when your father and I graduated from high school, it was expected that we would be able to support ourselves.
Correct.
We would be able to walk right into a job and get a job.
Correct.
And that hasn't been the case for a while.
Well, and that's in Grants. I want, some of our kids don't want to leave Grants. They want to stay in Grants. And,
right.
And they should be able to. They should be able to go to NMSU and the college and be able to be able to be competitive for the jobs that are in our community.
Right.
So
Right.
that's my big push there. I'm pushing for that.
Well, good for you, because I would support that and encourage it in any way that I can. And we've had students that have come to us. In fact, one of our two young men started with us in graphics when they were in high school.
Uh-huh.
They worked half a day for us. They'd come in at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock, and one is now teaching at the college. The other is doing some other stuff, but occasionally teaches at the college. And so they started with us doing graphic design. And we'd love to be able to work with youngsters doing some things in this field.
Wonderful. We're really looking at growing and expanding and providing. My big thing, I want all opportunities. I want our kids to be the best. If they're playing a basketball game, if they're in a performance, if they're in a college class, I want our kids to have every opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's the direction that a leader should have, right? Because I think it's our role to promote.
Correct.
And encourage. And that's exciting to see those things with your vision for the school. It's going to come to fruition.
Awesome.
You will. I want to.
We're excited.
Now, what would you like to say to our audience in parting?
I feel very blessed to have the opportunity to be here in this community. To the families, I am loving working with your kids, getting to know your kids, and just hope that we grow and do what's best for our families.
Okay. Well, it's so good to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
It's always good to see you. And give my regards to your father and your brother, and let them know that they're close and dear to my heart.
Sure, I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, our audience, for tuning in to this segment of Cibola Treasures, brought to you by 7 Cities Productions, Double J Media, and Comcast.
Oh no, maybe he'll give me a warning.
108 regional. I'll be on a traffic stop. I'm with the Cibola County Sheriff's Office. The reason I'm stopping is because you weren't maintaining your lane. Do you have your driver's license, registration, and insurance with you today?
Yes, I do.
Sir, have you consumed any alcohol today?
No, I haven't.
I can smell alcohol coming from the vehicle, sir. Are you sure?
Okay, maybe I had 2 beers.
Sir, place your hands behind your back for me. I'm going to be placing you under arrest for DWI.
Welcome to this segment of Cibola Treasures. We have in our studio today 2 people that really make a contribution and a difference in our community. And I want to welcome Josephine Hurtado.
Thank you.
And William Yarbrough.
Thank you.
Now, the organization that you're with, William, is...
I work for Grants Main Street Project Incorporated. We're a nonprofit charitable organization that focuses on the restoration and revitalization of the Grants Main Street District.
Okay. And Josephine, you've been president of Grants Main Street now for how many years?
This is my 4th year.
Your 4th year. And you have had some innovative ideas and concepts to bring to our community to encourage tourism. And I hear so many people wanting to revitalize the community, but they rarely mention one of the things that you have done, and that's for tourism.
Mm-hmm. And that's our new 7 Trails of Gold outdoor festival. This is our 3rd year. It's looking bigger and better every year, and part of that is the geocaching. And I'm really excited about the geocaching because it brings people off the freeway all year round. We have probably 20 to 30 hits a month during the winter season, and double that during the summer season of people that are actually taking time to come off the freeway and hopefully get to know Grants a little bit better.
And that's every day.
Every day.
Every day, 60 people want to find out what's going on in Grants.
Well, about 60 a month.
A month.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I happened to be in the chamber several years ago when a couple said they were on their way to, I think it was Yuma, Arizona. They were traveling for their winter stay down there. And they said, every year we stop in Grants and we do something different every year. This year we've decided to go to Blue Water Lake State Park because we've never been there. Awesome. And so she said next year we're going to do Highway 53. So every year they would find something different to do and explore. So oftentimes if you have 60 hits a month, they may come for the geocaching for this time, but then they'll come back for something else.
Yeah, exactly. And, we've tried to put the geocaches at points of interest that'll make them want to explore more and come out more. Our original concept of the different trails highlights, El Morro, the lake, the Zuni Mountains, Mount Taylor, the Pueblos in Acoma and Laguna. So we're really trying hard to get people to take enough time and stop and see our wonderful area because it's so diverse.
Mm-hmm. It really is. And you've got this tremendous background of all the things that have gone on in our community. I mean, your knowledge of the community, Cibola County, is phenomenal.
Well, I'm a lifer, so that helps a lot.
Right. But you bring that to Grants Main Street. And so that perspective of not only what we were 40, 50, 60 years ago, but what we are pursuing right now.
Mm-hmm.
Which is phenomenal.
Yeah, it's great.
It is. And Grants Main Street, you want to talk a little bit about Grants Main Street?
Well, what do you want to know? There's a lot to know about Grants Main Street. I'd probably just keep it focused to 7 Trails because that's what we're working towards. It's coming up on May 31st through June 2nd. And it's our large event. It's our flagship event and main fundraiser for Main Street. We put on multiple projects, programs, and events throughout the year to help with our goals of revitalizing and restoring Grants in its downtown district into something that people can work, play, and live in. So this event is very important to us. Geocaching is a really great tool that we use to bring in tourists. Geocaching is played over all 7 continents and within 191 countries, and has over millions of caches out throughout the world, and probably over 300,000 different unique geocachers around the world play geocaching. So by tapping into this game, we call it a game, it really is, it's fun for people. We have the possibility of attracting upwards of 300,000 people to Grants if everyone in the world were to come. But right. Even if that, America itself has over 1 million geocaches placed, and I think at least 150 unique people who place geocaches. And it's understood that anyone who places a geocache also likes to geocache. So a large group of people that we can tap into to bring into Grants. And like Josephine had mentioned, it's a great way to get people to look at the things that we want them to look at. By placing a geocache at a particular place, say at the visitor center, at the chamber, at the top of Mount Taylor, it makes people look at their game and say, oh, I want to look for that cache. And then they go. And then, you don't have to tell people the directions. The GPS takes them there to their going. So it's a really, really great tool. And, we're putting a lot into it. And then outside of that, the event, helps entertain other groups of people with things like the car show, with things like the business expo, the kids zone, beer garden, live music. We're having a free fishing day will be on June 1st. And so it's a really awesome event to have. It's really great for the community, and it's a really great way to bring in tourism. Good. It's a great way for us to raise funds for our further projects in trying to restore the downtown district.
Right. And I think it was, a year or so ago, you took us up to one of the places that is a geocache.
Yes, Lime Kiln Canyon.
And I had wanted to go there for years and years and years and years and years. I mean, for a long, long time, but I didn't know how to get there. Mm-hmm. And so I was privileged to go and see this phenomenal place. And when you think about what went on there, back in the early 1900s, late 1800s, and how they took that final product out of that area is just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. It is, and with, pick and shovels, they processed the limestone and made for building houses and stuff. So it's really pretty amazing.
It really is. And we've got these sites all over similar sites, mm-hmm. all over our county. Mm-hmm. So that's exciting. Now you're going to have a class on how to geocache.
That's correct. On May the 4th, we're having a how-to geocache in the Fire and Ice Park. It's to teach people on how you even download the game or get it onto your GPS, how you work it once you have it there, and then how you might be able to go and place your own geocaches. But mainly focusing on how to find them. So it'll be a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it. And actually, me and Josephine are planning on doing some hiking this weekend, trying to make sure the trails look good, that the geocaches are still there, and decide if we want to put out some more. So
okay,
we're working on it.
I wish that I could go this weekend, but I'm getting ready to travel, so I can't. But I want to go so much. Maybe after the geocaching event is over, the 7 Trails of Gold is over, we could take a little trip to entertain me.
Sure. We'd love to.
We'll be going out probably every weekend until the event, setting out new caches.
Definitely.
We have 65 caches that are currently active, and we want to get 100 more new ones for the event. Mm-hmm. So
that's right.
That's fun.
Yeah, it is. That means 165 unique caches for any one person to find.
Okay.
That's a lot for anyone to do.
It is. It's amazing. Now, are you going to have the off-wheel, off-road event this year?
Yes, they're going to be here also. And
what does that entail?
Basically, they have over 2,200 miles of trails already GPSed out, and they pretty much take care of their own trails, and we'll have some support teams out in the mountains, but they'll go out for the day just splunking and four-wheel driving, and then they'll come back and enjoy the beer garden, and we're going to have them set up where they can basically display their battle scars after the event and as part of the car show.
Wonderful. Okay.
It'll be a really fun
So
experience.
we've got, and then what else is going on besides that? Do you have any other groups that you know that are coming in?
Well, we've got,
It's a Route 66 car cruise coming in.
yeah,
And it escapes me where they're coming from, but they're making Grants their last stop this year in past where they've done it in Gallup. So Grants will be their final stop this year. We're very excited to host them. The chamber will be supporting them in their efforts to have a dinner, have this last hurrah in Grants, and hopefully I'm sure they'll take advantage of all the festivities going on during the time, and so it happens to work out very well that way.
Wonderful.
So-
This is, we're putting Grants on the map, and people are so tired of hearing me say this because I've said it for the last 20 some odd years. Coronado was looking for the 7 cities of gold. We have all the treasures right here in Cibola County.
definitely.
That's right.
And we'll have a lot of entertainment, local bands. Carrie Talley is doing a physique performance in the amphitheater.
That's right.
We're excited about that. And
I have free fishing day on that June 1st. So Game and Fish have said that they'd be willing to bring a booth out there, be willing to rent out poles to people so they can be able to fish the fish in the river walk. And they're also planning on stocking the tank, looking into stocking the tank stocking the river walk park before the event, so that way there's a lot of fish for people to catch.
Wonderful.
So that'll be fun. Then also, this isn't necessarily related to 7 Trails of Gold, but during that same weekend, guy at El Cafecito, I'm sorry. Josh Baca. Gosh, I'm so sorry. Josh Baca is hosting his Shed Fest, which is also an outdoor enthused event. They're having shooting contests and things. So, we might be able to play off that. Folks that go there can come to 7 Trails. 7 Trails folks can go there. Looked like there was a lot of fun things to do. Shooting contests, like how many sheds are in here, things like that. It was really cool.
Okay. All right. So, in closing, again, what are the days of the 7 Trails of Gold?
7 Trails of Gold will be Friday, May 31st, starting at noon, and it goes until about 8 p.m., and then it goes until June 2nd and ends about 5 p.m. on June 2nd, which is Sunday.
And how can someone reach you?
They can reach me at my phone number at the office. It's 505-285-3573. You can also reach me at my office, just stopping in. The address is 523 West Santa Fe Avenue. And if nothing else, you can reach us on Facebook at facebook.com/Grants Main Street Project, or at our website, www.grantsmainstreetproject.com.
Okay. And Josephine, you have been an inspiration to so many people in our community. I just am amazed at the gifts that you give back to our community in so many ways. So thank you for being our president, for leading the charge, if you will, to put Grants on the map.
oh, thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you for joining us today. It's my pleasure, and I want to thank you, our audience, for tuning in to this segment of Cibola Treasures, brought to you by our wonderful sponsors, including Double J Media, 7 Cities Productions, and Comcast.
Today, Eric Almirola behind the wheel in that 43 car.
We all have a role to play here at Richard Petty Motorsports. We respect each other, work hard, and that helped us get the big win in Daytona. My partners in the U.S. Air Force also know that it takes a team to make each mission a success. Your coworkers, family, and friends are your team. Treat them with respect, and together you can accomplish great things. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
Now, just some things that are happening with 7 Cities Productions and Double J Media Group is that you can also view us on our Facebook page and also on Instagram, as well as our website, which is www.7citiesproductions. We're looking for also to the future for doing some podcasts here, and we've got a lot of topics that we want to cover in our podcast, so keep in mind that these are the things that are happening in the future. I want to thank you for tuning in to this edition of Cibola Treasures, brought to you by our phenomenal sponsors, including Double J Media Group and 7 Cities Productions.